Like many online paydirt sellers, Jim Hamilton at Jimbo's Gold sells both concentrates and paydirt. And I thought it'd be interesting to do a side-by-side comparison, not so much on how much gold each produces, but what the base material is like to work with, because that can have a profound effect on how much fun, how enjoyable it is to process each of these materials. So I bought a 1 pound bag of his Arizona Dredge cons and also a 1 pound bag of his Arizona Paydirt. We can see right away there's a significant difference. As expected, the Dredge cons, which has been processed with water, look much cleaner and it seems slightly larger grained. The Paydirt looks like dirt. There is fine silt, probably some clay in here, and this might be a little bit messier to process if you're using a miller table or panning it out. But let's do the classification on these and see what they look like. And here we are. The Dredge cons are in the top row and the Paydirt is in the bottom. I forgot to mention in the opening segment that the Dredge cons cost $30.99 in October of 2016, and the Paydirt was $28.99 at the same time. Shipping was free because the total order was over $35. As expected, the Dredge cons are heaviest in the larger grained material, whereas the Paydirt has a lot more of the very fine material. One thing I'd like to point out though is that even in the -100, this stuff is not real dusty. It's still fairly granular, so this isn't going to be really heavy in clay. The Paydirt also has a slightly more reddish hint to it, and I think that's because the fine clay material, even though there's not much, is enough to coat it and give it that look. The biggest surprise though is that the Dredge cons, especially in the smaller grits, are almost 50 to 60% black sand, whereas the Paydirt has practically no black sand in it at all. Next, I'm going to run both materials separately through my visual picking and then the miller table to see what sorts of gold we find, but also to evaluate the differences in how the materials process. So let's get to work. And here's the gold I recovered. This is from the Dredge cons, and this one is from the Paydirt. As you can see, the Dredge cons are heavier in the larger size gold. This is +20s, some +50s, and this is all the rest of the +50s, +70s, hundreds, and -100s. Very little in the large gold in the Paydirt. This was a single +12, +20s, +30s, and +50s, and everything smaller. What was interesting is in the Paydirt, there was an enormous amount of +100 and -100 gold. There were times I'd put a 1/4 teaspoon of material on the miller table, and I would literally have hundreds of specks in the +100 or -100. And that's not just an exaggeration. I counted or tried to count one batch once, just a typical batch. I got up to 125 and gave up, and I was less than halfway through. The amount of superfine gold in the Paydirt was just, you just can't believe it. So normally it would take me 4 hours to process 1 pound of Paydirt like this. This took me 8 hours. The -100 alone was over 2 hours, simply because there was so much fine gold. Overall, I'd say the amount of gold is about the same. So let's weigh it out and see how they did. First up, let's look at the Dredge cons. .598 grams. That's pretty good from a sack of dirt that only costs $30.99. Next, let's see how the Paydirt did. And here we go. Wow, 0.7 .762. That's outstanding. From a bag of dirt that's only $28.99. Let's take a look at the numbers. For myself, I much prefer processing the dredge cons. It's much easier to deal with the black sand than it is to have to repeatedly wash away the silt and clay out of the pay dirt. However, that is a matter of personal preference. I hope you found this video entertaining, and as always, thank you very much for watching.